Welcome to Take Charge. I'm your host, Ingrid Paris Hicklin. Welcome to Take Charge Health and Wellness Summit here at George Mason University 2015, hosted by the Old Dominion chapter of the Links Incorporated and George Mason University. With me is Michael Barris, the president of Old Dominion chapter of Links Incorporated. Welcome, Michael Barris.
Thank you for having me.
So why a summit?
The Links Incorporated is one of the oldest service organizations. The Old Dominion chapter, founded in 1993, really encompasses what we would like to give to the Prince William County community. One of the four basic thrusts of the Links Incorporated is health and human services. The Old Dominion chapter has a program called Full Steam Ahead, which is to help us close the achievement gap in Prince William County. A part of that achievement gap is not just education, but also health education. So that's why a summit.
Wow. So you heard it first. We have lots of things planned, so stay tuned because we're going to show you speakers. You're going to meet other people who are impacting the health of our community. We'll be right back. Standing with me, I am speaking with a wonderful person from the Old Dominion chapter, Jackie Rozier. She's going to tell us who this summit is for. Jackie, who should be attending this summit?
Everyone should be attending this summit. Our summit focuses on families. We are very interested in promoting health. We're interested in eliminating the disparities in chronic diseases through families, and we're also interested in advocacy. We're also interested in promoting using health resources. This is a perfect opportunity for whoever you decide is a member of your family to come and learning about supporting health, eliminating disparities among people of color, and promoting health. This is a perfect opportunity. We have many resources here that people have the opportunity to talk to people, to utilize some of the services here. I just got my blood pressure taken while I was here. And I also had the opportunity to talk about other health things that I'm interested in, physical as well as mental. So this health summit is for everyone.
Excellent. Thank you, Jackie. So you heard this summit is for everyone, so stay tuned. Now you're going to hear from our speakers.
Well, welcome to George Mason University. My name is Gary Krebs. I'm the director of the Center for Health and Risk Communication, and I am so pleased to help sponsor this Community Health Summit. I'm hoping that you will find a lot of the information provided here of direct interest to you, your friends, your family, members of your community, and you will be liaisons who will come out and share that information. This summit is focused on community leaders. I don't know if you knew that or not, but you are community leaders. Congratulations. Now you have that designation. But as community leaders, I think you have a certain responsibility to not only promote your own health, but also to provide relevant information and support to the people in your community that you care about. And I suspect there are a lot of people that you care about and a lot of people that care about you. This summit was designed to provide information about a whole range of important health risks that often are misunderstood, that often have very good strategies for both prevention, treatment, and remediation. And I'm hopeful that you will find some great information and ideas, as well as make some connections with other people here that you will take with you. I'm so pleased to host this at George Mason University because George Mason University wants to be your university, wants to be the university of your community, and we want to talk with you and help you and support you in every way we can. So have a wonderful time today. I will sit in and try and learn a couple things too. I've got a lot to learn. And I will turn it over to the wonderful folks from Links Incorporated who are hosting this event. Mike Keller. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Michael Burris, the president of the Old Dominion chapter of the Links Incorporated. The Links Incorporated is once again partnering with George Mason University. And thank you to Dr. Krebs and the staff at George Mason University for being such a phenomenal partner. The Links Incorporated is one of the world's largest service organizations. The Links have 5 main focuses: the arts, services to youth, international trends and services, national trends and services, and health and human services. Today's event is hosted by the Old Dominion chapter of the Links Incorporated Health and Human Services facet under the direction and leadership of Ingrid Paris-Hicklin. Will Ingrid and the members of the Health and Human Services facet please stand? If you're in the room. And the chairman of the Health and Human Services facet, Siobhan Kershaw, is she in the audience? Or is she out by the desk? Let's just give her a hand. Your hostesses this afternoon are the members of the Old Dominion, Virginia chapter of the Links Incorporated. Members of the Old Dominion chapter, will you please stand, ladies? And do we have anyone else in the audience who are members of the Links Incorporated, which we affectionately call Sister Links? Ladies, thank you for coming here this afternoon, and thank you for your service to the community. Our Eastern Area Director, Diane Hardison, was unable to attend. I know she would agree that today's event is intended to provide information and to share expertise, but most of all, to make you think. Think about your health and the health of your family and friends. I hope when you leave here today, you'll take the information that's shared to start a dialogue in your community, to reach out to others, to share the information that you've received here today. So sit back, but don't get too comfortable. Relax, ask questions, and enjoy the dialogue and the friendship. Thank you.
Well, hi everyone. Well, hello everyone. Yeah, okay. Well, each and every one of you, I honestly believe I've spoken with you at one time or another, and I am so appreciative of you being here because it's most important that we come together as a community to talk about our health and well-being. And with that, I'm going to just pause for 1 second, and I'm going to give you a special message from our actress, Debbie Morgan. Just 1 moment.
To the remarkable ladies of the Old Dominion, Virginia chapter of the Links, Incorporated, along with all of you presenters and guests. I'm Debbie Morgan, and I bring you greetings from sunny California, where I'm currently working on a project. But at this particular moment, fighting through a bad sinus infection, so forgive me if I don't look like a beauty today. Anyway, I wish I could be here with you in person. I want to congratulate you on the wonderful work you do to keep our communities healthy and vibrant. I want to congratulate you on the Health and Wellness Leadership Conference today in partnership with George Mason University and the continued work of the Health Equity Ambassador in your chapter. Now we know the health of those in our communities affect all of us. We also know that early detection saves lives. That is why I am so passionate about involvement in service in the community. Again, I want to take my hat off to all of you hard-working ladies in the Northern Virginia area, where I hope to visit soon. And I want to give a big shout out and thank you to Evelyn for reaching out to me, and I hope to hear from you soon. Have a wonderful day.
So you know what you're doing is very impactful. Now it is my greatest pleasure to bring forward our own, she is a member of our chapter, of Link. But most importantly, she has done many things here in the community. This is a decorated retired Lieutenant Colonel, Dr. Carol Alderson. You'll see her bio in our program. Please know that she is a doctor, a physician who is passionate about her community and does everything to make sure that we have good health. And so it is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Carol Wilkerson, our MC.
Hello everyone, welcome, good afternoon. I will be your MC this afternoon, and you can read my bio there. It's pretty long. I didn't know that Ingrid was going to put everything from my growing up in the South, my Army days. We are now going to have a psychologist talk to us. We have Dr. Lomas. She is in the field of psychology, and she's been in it for nearly 25 years. She has a BS in psychology and an MA in clinical psychology, and she focuses on father absence and the effect on self-esteem, and with particular emphasis on applied social psychology and the impact of the imposter phenomenon. I think my husband is an imposter. Colonel Philip Wilkerson retired right there. I wake up on my birthday and sometimes I see these flowers and nice gifts and I say, this is not the man I married. But anyway, she emphasizes on self-esteem and development, motivation, and success. Let's hear it for Dr. Loury Lomas. Told us before having it at the same forum a couple years ago.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I would like to thank Ingrid Paris-Hicklin, and Michael Burris, and the other members of Old Dominion Chapter of the Links Incorporated for having me here today. Very excited to be a part of the Health and Wellness Summit. It's tremendously important, in particular including mental and emotional health, which I'm happy to see our organization, not only the Links Incorporated, but the nation really putting a greater emphasis on it, because without good emotional health, we're not going to have good physical health, and then we're not going to be able to move forward in any area of our life, whether it's work or family or play. So thank you for having me. Never cut a tree down in the wintertime. Never make a negative decision in the low time. Never make your most important decisions when you are in the worst moods. Wait, be patient. The storm will pass, the spring will come. I love that quote by Robert Schuller, evangelist, because it speaks to making decisions when we're not in a good space. It's important that we find our peace and that we find a way to remain in a good emotional and mental space, in particular when we're making decisions. If we make decisions based upon how we feel, then we are going to be on an emotional roller coaster, because we are really, ideally, feeling all the feelings of the rainbow every single day. And so when we're feeling good, we're making one set of choices. When we're feeling badly, we're making another set of choices. And so if we make decisions based upon how we're feeling, we're going to be spinning all day, every day, and our decisions are going to change all day, every day. And in order to build a healthy life, in order to have a future legacy of health and wellness, we need to make purposeful and deliberate decisions. Because the decisions we make today will absolutely impact the lives we live tomorrow. When I consider legacy, I think about the generation that has gone before me, my mentors, my ancestors, the elders in my family, the leaders in my community as I was growing up. I also, now that I'm a mother of young men, I have a freshman in high school and a freshman in college, I'm acutely aware that the next generation is watching me. So I am the legacy of my elders and my children and my nieces and your children and the children coming up are our legacy. And I think about deliberate decisions, I think about choices that were made, and I think about my grandmother in particular, and the decisions that she made in her life in order to influence me. She made certain that I knew etiquette, that I knew what fork to use, and properly attired, and cross your legs at the ankle and not at the knee. And so she was deliberate in her decisions, making certain that I knew how to carry myself in the way that she considered to be a lady. She was also very deliberate in her decision of education. So it was my father is a professor, and education was critically important to my family. And so they made deliberate decisions, not based upon their feelings, but based upon their values and what they thought was important, to make sure my external being was okay, to make sure that I carried myself and presented myself in a way that was appropriate to society and to them. My grandfather used to say, "You're a Loury." Don't ever forget that. And you represent something that is more than yourself. And that has stuck with me throughout my life. What they didn't do was make deliberate decisions regarding my inner self, my emotional self, to make sure that that person was taken care of. And I think oftentimes we make the mistake of not making those deliberate decisions as we teach our children, as I think about my sons and my nieces and the other people that are watching, and the other little people that are watching us live our lives. My family, in regards to professionalism, their members are very successful professionally. However, my grandmother, who was my heart, God rest her soul, died at a relatively young age. The older I get, the younger it sounds when she died. But she died at a relatively young age because she didn't take care of her inner self. She ate badly. She drank too much. She didn't know how to manage her stress. And as professionals, juggling hats, serving the community, professionals in our field, parents, aunts, uncles, and leaders, oftentimes we put ourselves last, and that's exactly what my grandmother did. She did not manage self-care. She did not teach me good self-care because, quite frankly, I don't think she knew how to manage her own good self-care. And so as we are building our healthy legacy, yes, I want to make sure I said it right, for our future, it's critically important that we manage our self-care because our legacy is watching, and that we teach them good, proper ways to take care of themselves. I'm often asked why I went to the field of psychology, and without fail, my answer is always to understand my crazy family. And that's an honest answer, and I'm sincere. So fortunately, I did go into the field, and I did not pick up the behaviors that my grandmother role modeled for me. But I was fortunate. I made a deliberate decision. And today, I would like to talk about my 7 tips for us to have good self-care, not only for ourselves as we are managing our own lives and multitasking, but also tips that we can share with our children and the future generation and other leaders within the community. So, first tip, don't react. Stop, think, and act. In the Robert Schuller quote, he talks about wait, be patient, the storm will pass, and spring will come. When we make decisions in emotional reaction, we never, ever, ever make a good, sound decision. But if you allow yourself to stop, think about what has occurred, think about how you feel with what has occurred, and make a decision to act, then 9 times out of 10, you will have made a decision that you're comfortable with and one that you'll be able to stick to. 2, say no. That is so difficult for people. Say no. Oftentimes people are concerned. If I say no, what will somebody think about me? What will that mean to that person? Will this person be angry with me? I don't know what she's gonna say, that sort of thing. What you don't realize often is that every time you say yes, you're automatically saying no to something. If I said yes to being here today, I'm saying no to being somewhere else, just because I said yes to being here. So if you think of it in those terms, every time you say yes, you're saying no. Let's flip it. Sometimes say no, because in saying no, you're automatically saying yes. No, I'm sorry, I can't make that event. Means yes, you get to stay home, exercise, relax, spend time with your children. So say no. And actually, I give my clients homework. That's homework. 3 no's for over the next couple of weeks. Let's see how you do. 3, take time for yourself. The busy professional never has time for anything. Oh, I'm so busy. I don't have time. ... Until something happens. I'm quick to say that. Oh, yeah, I would love to. I just don't have time. I have a gym membership that I rarely use. I have time to get my nails done, though. My hair. I have a conference next week. Trust me. I will be presentable. But I didn't have time to go to the gym. I had time to go shopping. My child, I noticed that he's 15. His big brother has gone off to college, and his mom is busy. He has a lot of time on his hands. I've noticed that he's gained some weight. So I found time to find him a personal trainer. I found time to take him there. I have found time to do everything except for take care of myself. I can take 10 minutes in the morning to meditate. I can take 15 minutes in the afternoon in order to, I love to read. So, self-care, take care of yourself. Do the things that feed your spirit. Other than shopping, spend money, but do the things that really actually feed your spirit. I found even when my boys when they were both home a couple of years ago, the second I hit the door, the second I'm there, Mom, can I, may I, what are you doing? They're pulling at me. So what I did was on my way home, I would pull over, side of the road, in a neighborhood, not expressway, and pull out a book and read for 15 or 20 minutes. They were gonna be okay for 15 or 20 minutes. It allowed me the time to center myself, exhale a little bit, and then go be mommy. 4, be clear of your priorities. We often say our family is the most important thing to us. However, we don't always live that way. And using my children, again, I was very quick to say, oh, my children, most important thing to me, I spend time with them every time I can. Well, my younger son, this has been a few years, my younger son said, Mommy, we never see you. We never get to spend time with you. I said, okay, how can I solve that? For building my practice at the time, I had several offices and several locations. So I came up with a wonderful idea at a suite. So I made one of the offices about comfy furniture, and a TV, and I'm dating myself, a DVD player, and all the comforts, a place for them to do homework. One day we were on our way to my office. I have evening clients after school, talking to them about their day, and said, isn't it wonderful you get to spend so much time with Mommy? And my little guy, my challenge in life, said, Mommy, we don't spend any more time with you. You spend a lot of time with your clients. You don't spend any time with us. And I thought I was doing something. And he was right. There was a time when I could be out to dinner with my children and leave the restaurant to take a call from a client. Tell them I'll be right back. The last time that happened, my son, I didn't realize how long I'd been standing outside until my son came out and said, Mommy, we gotta pay the bill. I missed the entire dinner. They packed up my dinner. I didn't even realize how long I'd been gone. I was not living my priorities. And it is tremendously important. I had to make some changes. That's also about self-care for me, because it's important for me to be a good mother. My husband passed away 11 years ago, so I am the only parent that they have. And to look back on this and to think they kind of grew up with me ancillarily standing by would have been a heartbreak for me. So I made some changes. I did what's next on my list, number 5, which is set boundaries. I had to set boundaries for myself, as well as set boundaries for other people. Nobody told me to leave the table to take the call. I realized I had to allow myself to compartmentalize a little bit, with as important as it was for me to be a success, again, going back to my family and what I was taught, it was also as important to me to be accessible to my children, to be truly in the moment. And so I had to start living my priorities, which meant I had to say no to some things, and I needed to set some boundaries for myself. And so my phone goes off at certain hours. I also had to realize that I'm not all powerful or all knowing. People would be okay if they did not have 24-hour access to me. It was going to be fine. So setting boundaries for yourself and then also setting boundaries for other people, that also goes along with saying no. Don't let someone, prioritize yourself and don't let other people take from you until you have given to yourself. Set boundaries. Number 6, know your expectations. Most of us in here, most community leaders, we have high standards. We have high expectations for ourselves and we have high expectations for others. We're not always aware of just how much pressure we're putting on ourselves and how much in turn putting pressure on others. So we have to recognize what we're doing and sometimes adjusting our expectations of other people and realizing that it's okay. That goes back to saying no. That goes back to setting boundaries, allowing other people to also set boundaries with you. Walking your talk, living by example. You're setting boundaries, and it's okay if somebody else sets boundaries and says no. Adjust your expectations sometimes of yourself and of others. And finally, nurture your relationships. Number 7. I spoke a little bit about doing the things that feed your spirit. That's your relationship with yourself, which is the most important one. My mother used to tell me, if you take care of yourself, everything else will fall into place. And she was 100% correct. Because if I'm not okay, nothing else is going to be okay. I'm taking care of you, and I'm draining my energy. My battery is depleted. I'm now building resentment, anger, anxiety comes from that, depression comes from that, and whatever service you're giving, whether it's to the community or to your family or to a neighbor, it's not going to be as good as it would have been had you taken care of yourself first. It's okay if you're there 15 minutes late, if it allows you to recharge your battery, because you're going to be so much better worker if you're centered and in a better place. Also, an exercise that I do every year, and an exercise that I have my clients do every year, I call it the birthday homework. Think about the people in your life and put them in one of 3 categories. There's the first category called the friendship category. These are the people that feed your spirit, they make you feel good, they're supportive, they're encouraging, they're positive, they give to you. Then there's the second category called the acquaintance category. Now these people don't necessarily feed you, but they don't take from you either. Then the third category is called the leech category. They're leeches because they attach to you and they suck the blood out of you. Sometimes these are family members, sometimes they are friends, other times they can be coworkers and colleagues. The reason this exercise is done is that you're aware of who you're surrounding yourself with and what you are spending your time on. The leeches have a way of getting their needs met because they've attached to your body. They get your blood before you do. And the goal for the next year is to set boundaries and minimize the time with the leeches and increase the time with the friends, the people that feed your spirit. We're not going to dump anybody, but we do need to be critically aware who we're with and nurture the relationships that feed our soul, because what we have a tendency to do is to spend our time and give our best selves to the leech, because they're in your face, they're there, they're demanding. And then we're not really nurturing the relationships that are the friends. You know, I even have sometimes clients look at the acquaintance list. Is there somebody on that list who you'd like to get to know better? Who might be someone that can support you and feed your spirit? And if you do it every single year, which is why I call it the birthday homework, you can notice people will move amongst the categories. Sometimes you're a leech because life is happening. You know, you're in a crisis. Your failed marriage relationship, had a death, you're not feeling well. All sorts of things can happen. Why you yourself might become a little bit of a leech. And then as life gets better and you implement some of the other tips, then you're not so needy and you're not so much of a leech. And you'll it'll be interesting to watch people move amongst the groups if you do it every year. People can only do what we allow them to do. So remember that. As Robert Schuller said, wait, be patient. The storm will pass. The spring will come. Well, spring is here. We thank you, Lord, because we had a long winter. And I'm from Chicago, and even I thought this was a long winter. So glad this spring is here. If we take care of ourselves and we consider the 7 tips, which I challenge each and every one of you to do, then we'll be able to move through the seasons a little less scathed, a little more centered, with a little more peace. And as we build our healthy legacy, we're not only role modeling for our children, but I challenge all of you also for this next generation, for our legacy, to purposefully and deliberately make the decision to teach them about taking care of their inside. Because I know we all teach them how to take care of their outside. And so that is my challenge for you today. Thank you for having me.
Very smart. She earned dual degrees in biology and chemistry with minors in physics. Who in here remembers taking physics and loving it? African American history and English with honors. As a health strategist, Dr. Allison-Ottey has evaluated, developed, and executed national and regional programs which have impacted millions of lives. And she also has a catchy name, don't you think? I think of Ozzy Osbourne. She ought to team up with Dr. Oz and she could be Oddie Oz. So let's hear it for Dr. Ottey.
Thank you. I'm going to be brief. And I do want to acknowledge that if I sound crazy, and then of all the times to get videotaped, I had major oral surgery on Monday, and today's the first day I've not been totally, the left side of my face, huge. So be kind with the video. And if I drool, that's because I cannot feel the left side of my face at all. But I do want to just quickly thank you all for having me here, and thank you all for hanging in till the end. I'm going to go right through because I hope we have at least a few minutes for questions. I do a lot of work with the American Cancer Society across the country, and I'm actually going to focus a bit of this talk per request on cancer, which certainly as community leaders and African American community leaders, we have to talk about cancer in our communities. It is taboo. Everybody gets scared. You fall out. You go to church. You get hands laid on you, and then get up and refuse to do chemo. And so we really have to hit this head on and talk about cancer. Somebody say prevention. Somebody say early detection. Early detection. It really is that we all have to work together with our community leaders. I probably spend about 40% of my time in life speaking to the faith-based community, which is our strongest weapon. Our civic organizations, our sororities, our fraternities, certainly the Links, NAACP, all of us have to work together with academic institutions to address health and wellness. And we have to teach doctors how to be healthier ourselves. On social media, I learned yesterday that yet another colleague committed suicide. And so even as health professionals, we often wear the mask, but that's a whole nother talk. Let's move to the next slide. So American Cancer Society really does focus on helping women and men in staying well, getting well, finding cures, and fighting back. That really is their mantra. Next slide. Unfortunately, we do have to at least look at some of the statistics, and I do encourage community leaders to look at these, and then you can go on the CDC site and the American Cancer Society site and find out, even down to the zip code, what the incidence of disease is. When we look at new cancer cases in 2013, we see that for women, breast is #1, for men, prostate is #1. And then there's an interesting, #2 is lung and bronchus for both. How do people get lung cancer? The majority. Smoking. So the most preventable cancer ever is don't smoke. Okay, I'm from North Carolina, went to ECU, which was built on tobacco money, and they protested when our speaker, the then Surgeon General, who was a mentor of mine, talked about an anti-smoking campaign. They were picketing, and people were mad that she was saying don't smoke. Anyway, then you have colon and rectal cancer has #3. Next slide. So that's the new cases, and then unfortunately we have to look at the number of deaths, but this is actually a good slide because we can see over the last several decades that the incidence of death has gone down rather statistically significantly as it relates to cancer. Next slide. For me, I'm going to focus on 2 areas. One is breast cancer, the other is colon cancer. The leading risk factor of breast cancer, of getting breast cancer, is what? Having breast. If you have breast, you are at risk of getting breast cancer. So obviously women are, the incidence of breast cancer is 100 times more common in women than men. There are several famous men, one who is a fine brother, Richard Roundtree, the original Shaft. He's about 85 years old. I would marry him today. So he came out very publicly about his bout with breast cancer. And then as we get older and we've had breast a little longer, our incidence increases. But one important factor, and with the work I do, I get to meet women all over the country, several of whom, even last week, I met a 23-year-old with stage 4 breast cancer. We know that if women get breast cancer earlier, that the prognosis is worse. Family history, and a lot of times the media focuses on family history, but remember the #1 way, the risk factor of getting breast cancer is that you have them. So just because mama, grandmama, Sister Sue did not get breast cancer, we have to tell women that you still are at risk, but you're at a little bit of a higher risk if you talk about you having a family history of breast cancer. And then the other things that we don't think about, periods, if your period begins earlier than 12, if you haven't had children by the time you are 30 or you never have kids, if you go through menopause at 55 or older, if you've been on hormone replacement therapy for greater than 5 years, if you abuse alcohol, if you are overweight and have low physical activity. So yes, there is a link between nutrition and obesity. Next slide. And certainly in our community organizations and as leaders, when you talk about any community, the whole world is run by women. I'm sorry, I hate to tell you all this, men. But I do believe in biblical truths, and the biblical truth is that the man is the head. But I believe in reality, and that I'm a doctor, and that your head sits on a neck, and the neck can turn the head any way it wants to. So yes, women do run the world. When we talk about y'all will get that later. Okay, when we talk about African American women, who gets cancer more, African American women or white women? How many people say white women? How many people say black women? Actually, white women get breast cancer more than black women, followed by Hispanics. However, death rates flip. Black women die more from breast cancer and Hispanic women than do white women. Why is that? Early detection. It is, and I tell people all the time, it is much easier to treat a little frozen pea than to treat a lemon, right? By the time the lump has grown to a lemon, you now have to do surgery, chemo, radiation, and a lot of prayer to get through that. And so we see that in minority populations that we actually don't get our screenings, and we don't have mechanisms by which we really go to, the next slide please, early detection. There is no 100% way to prevent breast cancer. The best plan, somebody say best, is for women at average risk is to follow screening recommendations, and certainly if you're at higher risk, to follow screening recommendations, and then to follow up. It is really, and I love personal stories. I was getting ready to fly somewhere. I was in for a day, and I had this brilliant idea that I was going to go get my mammogram, go see my internist, do everything in one day. I told my office, kill the rest of my schedule. I'm going to do all this stuff in one day so I can get on a plane and be gone for several days. Well, I got a mammogram, and they said, there's a little issue. We need you to come back for now an ultrasound, and I said, well, okay, who's the radiologist that's here? And they said, I said, well, I want to talk to the radiologist. I'm Dr. Sharon, I want to talk to the radiologist. The radiologist said, well, you know, you can really wait. I said, no, I cannot wait. I'm going to cancel my appointments tomorrow. I'll be back here tomorrow. Can you do an ultrasound? And if necessary, can you do a biopsy? Why? Because as a busy woman that's trying to balance, and balance is impossible, but as a busy woman, you have to draw your own line in the sand. I had an abnormal mammogram. If I waited 3 to 4 months, maybe I would have forgotten about it. So I went back the next day, had the ultrasound, and did not have to have a biopsy. And then 6 months later, had on my schedule, come hell or high water, I'm going back for the follow-up. We have to do that because there are literally tens of thousands of women who get abnormal pap smears, abnormal mammograms that never go back. And that little pea-sized lesion now grows and metastasizes, and that leads to our deaths. So we have to do that. 9 out of 10 women can survive breast cancer simply if it's detected early. Next slide. So what do we do? There's been a lot of things in the media about, do you need a mammogram, do you not, et cetera, et cetera. And I know about 2 years ago when some foolishness came out in the media about women don't have to have so many mammograms, or there's now a new gold standard, many of my colleagues and myself were on television, on radio, saying this is ridiculous. And particularly as an advocate for African American women and all women in general, I said, heck, I can't tell a woman don't get a mammogram every 2 to 3 years when we're trying to get minority populations in the door just once. So we have to make sure that we do not let insurance companies and payers dictate our health, right? So what I tell people all the time, if your insurance company says, we won't pay for a mammogram or ultrasound, just say, oh, I think I felt something. That's all you need to say, and make sure they put it down, and then your mammogram will be covered. And if you have breasts, you will feel something. There's a lump somewhere. There's some adipose tissue somewhere in there. So what should we be doing? Number 1, yearly mammograms are recommended starting at age 40. Somebody say 40. 40. And continuing as long as a woman is in good health. I get this question all the time. I did do a geriatric fellowship, so 65 and older. I spent 2 years studying that population, and I'm an expert in that field. So they say, well, mommy's 85. Well, mommy's 85, but how old is she really? Mommy 85 playing golf, shopping, living by herself, driving is different than mommy 85 laying in a bed unable to talk, right? So that 85-year-old mommy, if she found a pea-sized lesion in her breast, would have just a small local surgery, would not need chemo and radiation, versus the mommy that's in the nursing home. What would you do? That's how you decide. Will life take you out of here if you don't, and what is your quality of life, right? So that's how you decide when you don't need to have mammograms. What are you going to do with the information? A clinical breast exam, your doctor or a healthcare professional should touch your naked breasts and examine them every 3 years in their 20s and 30s, and then every year, 40 or more. I tell people all over the country, whether it's cancer, skin cancer, whatever, you need to be butt naked in a doctor's office at least once a year. All right? You need to get your skin checked. And women, also, you need to know how your breasts feel. This is not a joke. I told you I talk at a lot of church conferences and all that. And I was doing MegaFest, and someone came up and said, well, I don't examine my breasts. God doesn't want us to do that, you know. And I said, you're not masturbating, you're examining your breasts. I hope that you take a shower and that you touch your breasts. we have some real issues. Somebody say issues. And then that is a true story, and that was filmed. So we have to really make sure that we know the guidelines and that our communities talk about the guidelines. Certainly, I'm involved in a sorority. We can get 400 women at a chapter meeting, and we have 2 seconds of a health talk. Well, actually, it's beneficial to your organization. It's beneficial to the links. It's beneficial to your organizations for your women to be healthier. If you're healthier and still around, you'll still pay dues and you'll still do stuff. I tell that to churches. A tither that's healthy versus someone on disability that's not healthy is good for your economics. And I hate to joke about like that, but sometimes we put health at the back end, right? And so not only the health of the community, but our own personal health. Next slide. We talked about new cancer cases, and it's important that we talk about colorectal cancer. Next slide. Who gets colon cancer more, men or women?
Men.
Men. How many say men? How many people say women? How many people saw the first slide and it was number 3 for both, right? Actually, it's the 3rd leading cause of cancer in both men and women, but because it's below the waist and it's not a vagina, and we think sort of the colon is next to the penis, we kind of think, well, the man is more at risk. Actually, that's not true. It is, we are equally at risk, and it is the 3rd leading cause of cancer death. When adults get screened for colon cancer, it can be detected early at a stage when treatment is most likely going to lead to the cure. Next slide. It's important that about 1 in 3 adults between 50 and 75, about 23 million people are not, somebody say not getting screened as recommended. And then when you talk about race and colon cancer, black men and women have the highest rates of getting and dying from colon cancer, followed by white, Hispanic, Latino, Asian Pacific Islanders, and other, and American Indians. One day I'm going to put up a slide that says black people have more money than anybody else in the world, or have a higher living quality of life. But until that time, we have to continue to talk about all of the racial and ethnic inequities, both in women, for women, and for African Americans and minorities. And when we talk about colon cancer, it is a very stark difference. Now, next slide. Are we on science? Next slide. This is a tricky question because most of the time colon cancer is really asymptomatic, or you see some blood in your stool and you say, well, that was a hemorrhoid, until you have gotten to a part, unless you're doing screening, and you have had a lot of complications. Usually early colon cancer, again, you just think, oh, I strained, I didn't have enough fiber, etc. But it's important for us really to look at the guidelines. Next slide. There's a national initiative called 80% by 2018, and that is directed by a National Colorectal Cancer Roundtable, in which dozens of organizations have committed to eliminating colorectal cancer as a major public health problem and are working toward the shared goal of reaching 80% of adults age 50 and older getting screened for colon cancer. We talked about right now that only about 23% get screened. And this really is a great project for the links, for academic institutions, for other organizations to join up with this coalition, because if we can hit them in the church, we can hit them in the civic and our social settings. If we can put something on television at the movies or a commercial on, you continue to reiterate the message, and I think that's really important. Next slide. So who should get screened? People who are at average risk. The American Cancer Society says that basically at about age 50, both men and women should have screening. And then I get asked this question 24/7. Should I get a flexible sigmoidoscopy where they go in with a light in the booty and look up half of the colon, or should I get a full colonoscopy? What do you think? Which is better? Full colonoscopy. I say the prep is horrible for both. If you get a flexible sigmoidoscopy, they've been up there one time, but they're gonna have to come back in 3 years. If I get a colonoscopy and everything is fine, that's every 10 years. So every 10 years I'd have to drink all that stuff and go to that procedure that is not the most comfortable in the world. So again, a full colonoscopy where the entire colon is looked at. And then there are other tests, including, how many of you have ever gotten those cards that you're supposed to put your feces on and send back? Okay, everybody close your eyes. How many of you have gotten them and never, ever, ever sent them back? That would be 99.999% of the American population. We don't send them back. Next slide. So FlexSig, most of us will recommend that you have the gold standard, which is really colonoscopy. Next slide. I wrote a book several years ago. I lost about 140 pounds. I am working on this last 35 pounds. And I wrote a book called Is That Fried Chicken Wing Worth It? Not a Diet, a Mindset. And a concept that I introduce and talk about a lot is fork, sneakers, and parents. And this goes for absolutely anything in medicine, anything in health. Fork, sneakers, and parents. Next slide. All of our health, including our nutrition and whether we're the perfect size 2 or we're the perfect size 26, that was a joke, is related to fork, sneakers, and parents. And we have blamed our parents a lot. It really is just a little bit of our parents. Most of our issues with health are around lifestyle. Somebody say lifestyle. Lifestyle. We eat too much, we work out too little, and we don't know our family history versus our family history dictating our lives. And so it's good that we've talked about body weight and cancer risk. There are several cancers that are directly associated with increased risk in obese or overweight populations, including breast. But your risk with breast cancer increases if you're overweight and gone through menopause. Your risk factor for breast cancer increases tremendously. Colon and rectal, which we're talking about, even endometrial, even pancreatic cancer is associated with excess weight. Next slide. So the guidelines on nutrition, our first speaker really talked about this. Somebody say 5. 5 fresh fruits and vegetables each every single day. Grandmama told us we needed some roughage. You do need some roughage. I know that there's a lot of smoothies and all this drinking stuff and whatever, but if you eat an apple right now, in about 2 hours, you're going to the bathroom, and I don't want to be in the stall next to you, right? Right. You need a little roughage to clean stuff out. Next slide. And you need some water to help it go down. Okay. The recommendations for physical activity, somebody say do something. Do something. People ask all the time, well, what should I do? Should I do spin? Should I do Zumba? No, you need to do something and stop talking about it. If that means you have to get up earlier to work out for 20 minutes before, or do 2 10 minutes, etc., we do have to make sure that we start moving. We know that we can directly decrease our cancer risk, our risk for heart disease, our risk for mostly everything as it relates to medicine except for purely genetic, around exercising and having a balanced meal. And then even if you have a strong genetic track, even if you have a disease that has a strong, huge link, like some of the colon cancers, etc., we also know that happy hormones are released when we exercise. So we feel better. So when we talk about happiness, and I love the other speaker's presentation, when we talk about happiness, we feel better. We feel better when we eat right. We feel better when we exercise. And ultimately, that is the best health. Thank you.